Hey, Chris with RC Worst here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be showing you how to replace an existing pressure switch on a jet pump, as well as also show you how to change the voltage on the jet pump itself as kind of an extra little tip. So the things that you might need for this situation, of course, is you might need a new pressure switch, so you'll want to have that ahead of time. And take a look at your pump. You've got some tubing that connects to the pressure switch. You may need to get some new fittings. These fittings will either thread into the bottom of the new pressure switch, or these fittings will thread into the pump itself and that tubing. Also pay attention to whether or not you need to pick up some new tubing when you run out and get your parts. But oftentimes that tubing is reusable, just the same as any of your fittings that connect to the pressure switch. Oftentimes all you need to replace is the pressure switch itself. We've also got a screwdriver, a crescent wrench, and some Teflon tape, just in case the need arises that we're going to take apart some of those fittings. But in this example, we probably aren't going to need to do much of that. So let's jump to it. All right, so here we are. We've got the power off. So the first thing we're going to need to do now is remove the top of the pressure switch and begin by unhooking the incoming wiring so that we can then free it up. Got all our screws situated. We've got all of our wiring unhooked. Now we've just got to unhook this little guy. This is just like a box connector, and that just threads on there, so we'll just thread that off of there. Oh, there it comes. Let's see, we just kind of shake it loose a little bit. I kind of nudged it with the screwdriver to get it started. All right. So now that's off. And the last thing we've got to do, of course, is unhook this. Now, since we took the pressure switch clean off the wiring and everything, we don't actually have to undo our tubing, which is kind of a nice little tip for you. A lot of times the first thing that people will do is unhook the tubing and then go to the wiring, and sometimes you can skip a step by just going at it like this. Now you can see we've got some pipe dope on here. That's what this white material is. We're just going to replace that with a little bit of Teflon tape, because that'll work just as well in this situation. And then we take our new pressure switch and thread it on. Trying to take care not to cross the threads. Alright, so we thread this guy on. Now you don't have to go super tight with this. Basically just hand tight. Now I say hand tight because of course once you get this all installed, you'll be able to come back and make sure it's not dripping at all. And if you do find that it's leaking just a little bit, then you can just simply give this another turn or two, and then you should be in good shape. So now we'll take the cap off and hook it up to the conduit side of things. So let's see. To match what we used to have, we'll actually turn this just a little farther. There we are. Pop this plug out of there. It's got two little tabs on it that you got to push down to get it out of there. So then we run our wiring back in here. And then we put our box connector back on. And get that just as tight as you can. Doesn't have to be extremely tight. You can just take tap on it like that, and that should be more than good. Alright, so now to hook our wiring back up for the pump, or the motor rather, and we'll just hook that back up in the same configuration that it was in when it was manufactured. Now if you're worried about knowing exactly where your wires have to go, you can always mark them with a pen or Sharpie or tape or whatever. I oftentimes like to just take a photo with my cell phone anytime I get myself into a wiring situation that I may not be able to get myself out of. That way I've always got that picture to refer back to. Got a screw loose over here. And you want to put those down nice and secure. You don't want to have any connectivity issues And I recommend you go back and double check and snug all those lugs. Make sure you got good strong contact, because that's going to be the first thing that burns your switch out, is if you got bad connections and it's sitting there arcing and sparking and burning up those contacts. So the next thing we're going to want to do, let's get this old switch out of the way, is all we've really got left is to hook up our incoming power, and then we're ready to go. So we'll start with the ground. And now you see here I've got a black and a white. That usually indicates I've probably got a 120 volt. And the nice thing about these pumps is it's not really critical what side you necessarily go on, but generally speaking, you've got L1 and L2. So L1 is going to be, in most cases when you're dealing with 120 volt, L1 is your hot. So you're going to want to put your black wire on L1. L2, and now you see I made a mistake here. I didn't run this through my conduit port. I think this is the most common mistake when it comes to pressure switches. It's just a silly mistake to make. But with 230 volt, it doesn't matter whether it lands on this side or this side, because they're generally going to be both black. And with 120 volt, it does matter, and you just gotta know which one of these leads is L1 and which one of these leads is L2. So I might have said it doesn't matter just a second ago, now that I'm thinking about what I said, and that's not entirely accurate. There is rhyme or reason to it. Okay, so now that's all hooked up. Throw our cover on for safety, and that's all we need to know. We can go ahead and turn the breaker on and fire this pump system back up, and that's all there is to know about changing a pressure switch. But I did tell you I would show you one other thing, show you how to change this pump from 120 to 230 volt. Typically on the side of your pump, it's going to say what it was factory wired for. This pump was factory wired 115 volt, but if you happen to need to run it 230 volt, and this is pretty common across almost every jet pump in the industry, the only thing that changes, and I'll talk to you about it when we get inside this thing, is how you actually change it over. But it's generally located in the same spot, which is on the back of the motor. Okay, so now we've got all the inner workings here, and I know it looks like there's a lot going on, but really all you're looking for is this right here. So this is your 115 230 switch. So if we push that down, you can see 230. We push it up, 115. Whatever you can see is what you've got. Now, I've seen a number of different ways they do this. Usually it's this type of switch, but sometimes it's a little thing where you have to pull it off a 120 and put it on 230, or anything else. I mean, whatever they come up with in the back here, it's usually pretty well labeled, and it's a similar format to this. And now I mentioned the L1 and L2, you can actually see those here. So if you do lose track of your wiring, you can pop the back off and trace those to confirm that you've got them hooked up on the right leads for your incoming power supply. So that's it. That's all it takes to replace a pressure switch on your jet pump. We went ahead and put this video together because we've had a number of you asking for it. Here it is. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment section below. We might just make your video next. So we'll see you next time.